We want us to know that God's economy allows you to walk in victory. It impacts your personal finances as well as your business finances. Some of us are in the marketplace, so we may just be employees, but some of us are already in the marketplace and we're already entrepreneurs and we're employers. Okay, so God's economy can be applied in your personal finances as well as in your business finances as well. So in the area of walking in victory, we're going to have to understand, do we have enough barns, or do we have enough vats for the harvest we are expecting? We spent 2 days already talking about seeds, so by now people are already planting their seeds. You understand what kind of seeds you've even been planting seeds before you got here, but now you understand what your seeds were when you didn't take cognizance of them. Now we want to take you into the season of harvest, because as a farmer, when you are done sowing, you must prepare for harvest time. Harvest time will just not come and catch you snoozing. If it catches you snoozing, what would happen to the fruits in the field? Ordinary birds will come and pick it up because you are afraid you didn't prepare. So we have to be well prepared. Okay, all right. And in fact, if you find out when you're getting ready to harvest, you actually have to, what do we say? Scale up your capacity. All right. You've sown the seed. Now the capacity is coming. You have to, now the harvest is coming. You have to have bigger capacity, room to collect. All right. So the second one is that you have to monitor and expect your growth as you walk in victory. You know, we talked about Mark chapter 4 verse 20. Okay. So when you are getting ready for growth, you monitor it. Am I getting 30-fold out of my harvest? Or am I getting 60-fold out of my harvest? Or am I getting 100-fold out of my harvest? It is, you can monitor it, you can quantify it, you can number it. And then the second scripture is Deuteronomy chapter 1 verse 11. And this says, this is where God blessed the children of Israel. And he was saying to them, he said, I will bless you even 1,000 times more, which means there's a possibility for 1,000 times more, at least when we're just calculating it by finance. And there's 1,000 times more that we can never quantify because it's intangible. Okay, look at us, we're online. It's not really tangible, okay, but online we get thousands and thousands and thousands, and it's just growing and it's just growing and it's growing. Now that's not really tangible, so to speak, but we can quantify it. You see? So now we know what to do to get, if we think this is 30-fold, then can we scale up so we can get 60? Can we scale up so we can get 100? So there's room for growth. We go back to the numbers. Do you want to just keep increasing? The first few years we were increasing, and then we got to a point where we realized, no, we can't keep increasing. Time is passing by. The people who need to hear. And then we increased our capacity and we started multiplying. It's quantifiable. But if you are not monitoring the growth, it will just come and go. What did I do in my business last year? What are my figures? Do I keep account of it? Okay. What did I get in terms of my retainers or my accounting, my professional fees? How much did I book? Which products did I sell? Did I quantify how many? I'm a caterer. Did I quantify my meals? Okay. There are just so many. I'm a producer. I'm a manufacturer. Okay. Am I quantifying? Am I even seeing who are the kind of people who patronize what I'm looking for? Okay. How many children? How many grown-ups? How many kinds of events? How many types of organizations? I remember when somebody who was close to me was in business as a service provider, and after a while, I realized, okay, in this territory that you do your business, you get clients in this sector. You've become a sector specialist. But when you cross to another geography, you are totally only attracted to another sector. And you will not believe, as many millions as were coming out, this individual had not identified their sector. They were just doing the business and making the money. Now, can you imagine now what will happen if they've identified that I have 2 sectors in which I'm an area expert? How many more countries can you scale that to? Because now you know, if I enter that country, do they need this or need that? I can approach, and the next thing, you know, that's how you just grow. But if you're not monitoring it, you won't even know. Okay, then you have to be diligent. So we talked about all the accounting. Then the number 4 thing is, you must know, as you're growing, what you could do before you grew, you may not be able to do when you finish growing. At what point in time do you stop writing your own letters? At what point in time do you stop doing your bookkeeping and you get a proper accountant? At what point in time do you stop declaring your own tax that is costing you to spend 35%? Meanwhile, if you gave a tax accountant, you will pay less. You understand? At what time do you get a lawyer, an attorney, okay, who begins to work for you? When I was in real estate actively, I'm still in real estate, but when I was very active in real estate, we needed lawyers, because there were some transactions that when you do it just as a real estate practitioner and you don't involve the lawyer, you will be surprised how people do not uphold their promise. So you have to apply, you have to employ a lawyer's services so that you can showcase to someone that, ma'am, you are in breach. Can we have a meeting to discuss the fact that you have missed your deadlines and we need to look at your compromise? I mean, what do you want to give us the minute you switch into your legal conversation and your pronunciations, that deal totally changes. Someone who was trying to mess you around, someone who didn't even care, because I used to deal across countries. So it meant some people will just fly out to go and do their business and abandon all your deadlines, leave the entire process. And you have to legally call up and say, we declare for you that right now you have a period of 30 days to show up. Should you not show up, you will forfeit, and this is the terms of the breach. I had a contract one day that someone traveled, I think it was in the middle of COVID, something. Anyway, they traveled with a passport that expired that did not allow them to travel back. If I had not gone legal, I don't even know what the amount of loss of money. So at what time do you know? You can't scale to a certain level and keep trying to, make phone calls. Are you there? Of course. They will escape. You're not there. But when they receive a letter saying we're handing you over to the South African High Commission or Embassy for you to report and go and do, everything changes. Then you need to know who are your tax declarations or your personal income. We've talked about that. Know when to employ a tax accountant. And then number 6, the next of kin. This is a very powerful one. Okay? These are hindrances. And this is mainly to the men community. Although I have learned through the years now that it's not just the men, it's also the women. We all have passcodes. We all have passwords, security pins. Okay? Some you can store on Google and all those security online things, but some we still keep privately, isn't it? Okay, all right. Whenever you need to adopt security to protect your assets, you definitely also have to find somebody that you would declare as your next of kin that you can trust. If you can't find one person to trust, it is a sign of bad character and personality. There is not one honest person in your circle that you can trust. You should be able to find someone. But the most palatable is when in a family, a spouse trusts the other spouse. And this is where men, be nice to your wives, and women, be nice to your husbands. Okay? All right. Okay? Because when you have the best situation, the best scenario in a family where you've got spouses, one spouse should be able to take over after the other spouse in any emergency or crisis situation. Okay? Which means don't be in a hurry to invest, have income coming in, and having private assets locked up somewhere. It takes 2 minutes, 3 minutes to have a heart attack and go into coma. Or is it 3 or 4 minutes? So life is not that. You don't know what is going to happen. Just be proper. Okay, so you do this, you make sure that you spread your codes. I have a nice joke that I normally tell the men. And I say to the men, I say, when you die unprepared, please do not make your wife like a Swiss wife. And what do I mean by that? When you go to Switzerland and you invest in the banks and you lock up your money, you have one passcode. And until that passcode is released, that money becomes the property of the bank in your demise. But many men never can trust their spouse, their wives, with the code. So you find out that maybe when they're sick, all of a sudden nobody knows, and then they've been given like 2 hours or 2 days to live. You see that people are not interested in them living. People come and say, sorry, sir, you have just tell us the code. Can you use your last breath to tell us what this code is? Now, if they had told their spouse the code, wouldn't that spouse have accessed the money to utilize that money to fly you, medevac you anywhere in the world for the highest level of health care? But no, nobody knows the code. So whether you breathe your last breath or you spend another year, they just care about
your passcode.
Now, that's for nasty people. But now imagine a family that had lived in luxury or at a certain level, standard of living. And then the primary finance provider or financier of the family passes on. Now, a Swiss wife who lived at such a high level of luxury automatically becomes somebody who can be at the same level as people in crisis. So make a proper plan. There are different plans that you make when you go into that world. You have the short-term income, then you have, which means you will always open up an account that your next of kin has access to, that has a temporary short fund that they can use to operate for 30 days, okay? Then you have another fund that they can access in the money market, that they can go to and liquidate something, okay? And then you have assets. But if you have hardcore assets, there's no house that will sell and give you money. You understand? So make those kind of provisions and look after your next of kin. Then have your retirement planning. In the US, they call it 401k, and here we call it our retirement plan. All right. So put a retirement plan in place. It's a whole long journey of how to learn all the options. The good thing about it is go and learn. Don't just walk away in ignorance and just ignore the situation. If you want to grow to that level, these are the things that operate at that level. If you want to stay at the level of just hand to mouth, you don't need any stress. Just stay there. But if you want to start sowing seeds to say, I'm going to another level, you've got to capacitate for it. You have to learn. You have to understand. When they say investments, what are we talking about? How many kinds of investments? What are the products in the money market? What are the products? What are the different asset classes? Now, people like me were fortunate because we went to MBA. But it doesn't stop in MBA. You have to practicalize it. You see. And I'm also blessed because I can say a lot now, because I was married to somebody who was very mature in the area of working, with assets and making sure that there was investment in every asset class. But it took me a long time, even though I had an MBA degree, to embrace the fact that you have to grow your capacity. And when I was forced to do it, I had to grow up overnight. Okay? So don't wait till you are forced to do it, because you will lose money because of your ignorance and you're just learning. So you're just paying the price now. But you're paying the price with hardcore money. Why don't you learn before, so that by the time you are there, you have learned what you need to learn? Okay? And then we have the family estate, which is you plan. The Bible says that a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. And you have to start planning. You can open up a family trust, so that you can start hiding, or not hiding, so you can start ring fencing your assets that you're investing. Because those of us who make money as entrepreneurs, as business people, you don't want the business to be interrupted by what is going on in your private life for your assets. Because if your business has different seasons, you don't want those seasons to creep in and erode your family estate. So you learned, when you get to a certain level, you now have to start separating. When your assets begin to increase, more than one asset, two assets, three assets. And that's the trajectory of God's economy. You're not allowed to just stay with one asset and that's all you have. No, you're supposed to have different assets from different asset classes. Business assets. You're supposed to have investment assets, money market assets. You're supposed to have real estate assets. You see, different kinds, okay? And stocks and bonds, anything on the money market. And now we even have a new I don't know if you can call it asset class, but there's now cryptocurrency. Okay, and cryptocurrency is a whole new world. And those of us who do not understand cryptocurrency, please do yourself a favor as you move into, as you are approaching 2030, you better understand crypto. Because crypto is like there in comparison to normal currency. So if you don't capacitate, you will be left behind at this level. Do you understand? And God will say, yeah, I created crypto for my children. Well, if you don't capacitate, you will operate at the lower level. Remember my story? I didn't capacitate myself, and then I had to waste I had to waste investments while I was learning and paying a price for the fact that I'm now learning at a level when I should have learned at that level. Okay?